with you.
Is that better? Okay.
Alan,
Is that better?
Alan Park in studio, and I take a look at really sort of the institution of the Royal Canadian Air Force and going back to its radio days and what it meant to Canadians who, in some parts of this country, they only had the radio, and then it only was CBC. So instead of all the CBC-like shows where I'm talking like this, all of a sudden you had Roger Abbott, and you had all these and Lou Bogoy, and you had these people putting on these live shows and doing live comedy with Foley work and all that other kinds of stuff.
Real guys doing real Foley back then too. I never met him. That was before my time, obviously, but I heard great things about him. He was part of the troupe.
But at some point, how do you find yourself a part of that troupe?
Okay,
when does it happen for you?
Well, it was strange in the beginning because, like you said, when there's nothing else to listen to, or you're just listening to I remember listening to them all the time while I was traveling as a comic. In the western part of the country, driving around. You get up in the morning, you drive to the next town, and then Air Farce would be on the radio.
And the only thing you could find,
only thing you could find,
yes,
other than some angry, rant about, West Coast oil from someone's last name Green or whoever. So I listened to that, and then it was a strange story. I'll button it really quickly, but I was doing political kind of stand-up. I had stopped doing what I called my silly stand-up, which I do lots of still, and I love it, but I couldn't seem to get more interesting than that to my own self. So it would do well, and I wasn't enjoying it. And I got into, I was interested in politics. I was fascinated with the storylines and the criminality and everything. And I spent a lot of time researching it, looking at it. And then the great dawning moment of like, why don't you do comedy about stuff you're interested in, And then I put the two together after some time off. And within a couple of years, I got seen by someone on the show to help them punch up their comedic, their political takes.
And you would have been, years younger than a lot of those. You were the kind of young guy coming into.
I was. There was another one there. He's still there now, Craig. But I was. Yeah, we were the younger guys coming in, and supposedly, you would think taking the reins and moving on, a la Saturday Night Live. But everybody that was running it still wants to be on it, like as if Chevy Chase was still on Saturday Night Live.
So let's go back a little bit too, because so where are you from? What's your hometown?
I'm from here. I'm from Scarborough.
So you're a Scarborough. So
I'm a Scarborough boy.
We just had who went to Churchill the other day? Was that Dave Hemstad? Who was that? Every time we get someone here, it's always I don't know. Was that George Chordoff was also a Scarborough guy too. Yeah. He was like Kingston Road and Lawrence area.
Not far from Mike Myers. Not far from we were all. I have contemporaries that are from. I have probably 3 degrees of separation from Mike Myers and David Furnish, who's Elton John's husband.
Yeah, okay.
Hanging around the same crowd of folks.
And so, at some point, you're in Scarborough. So does this? Are we saying it lends itself for naturally being funny?
Yeah, it did in my case. Yeah. My dad was all shell shocked from the war, so he was like this little tiny insular guy that didn't really do anything. And including play catch and hockey and baseball and all that. He was suffering from things I found out years later.
Well, what we know now with PTSD.
Yes, and he was untreated. That's it. He was untreated.
Like most of them of that era.
Like most of them of that era.
Yeah.
Especially, stiff British upper lip and all this, just slaughtered someone, that's okay, move along. Don't get too upset about it, don't cry, don't be a little girl, that kind of thing. And so he was that, and my mom had to go to work, and then eventually there's tension, they split up, and then I was forced to entertain myself as a youngster in my home.
So you're...
that's how I got nuts.
Only kid?
Only kid. Well, my sister's 14 years older than me, so by the time I'm 6, 7, 8, she's already gone, she's got her life, she's got her husband. So I was spinning... thanks to her, Beatles records and that kind of thing. When my friends were listening to the wheels on the bus go round and round, so I was into the cool stuff right away. And I would cut out, pieces of paper and make, puppets and just entertain myself.
Were you the weird kid?
The weird kid.
Yeah, we're the weird kid.
I was the weird kid.
Yeah.
But in retrospect, there were a lot of other weird kids. But I definitely was. But my comedy thing didn't really start till I did a year here of stand-up, amateur night, and then I didn't really like it.
Was that the Yuck Yucks amateur, the Monday night?
In the 80s,
Yeah.
And I didn't like. I started to get some bookings, and I kind of, I don't like this business. I don't really care for this business, and I moved on, and I did some other jobs, and then I went to Vancouver, and after I went to a comedy night in Vancouver, and then I saw, I realized that hey, the business part of almost everything sucks, so you might as well just do comedy. And take the sucky part of the and then I got back into it. So I've been doing comedy for about 10 or 12 years by the time I got on Air Farce, and then then that was like, I did that for about 5 years. Then the show got canceled, and then I did another 5 of these New Year's Eve efforts.
Right.
Yeah.
So for the most part, you take a look at, and again, we have, and we love having stand-ups, and generally in Canada, the story is very, very similar. The story is, I lived in my car, I have no money, and if it wasn't for a girlfriend or a wife who somehow thinks I'm better than what I am, I'm homeless.
Yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah.
I mean, you're very close to the edge of that all the time now. At any given moment. Like, I mean, the show I was on was canceled. And I remember the frustration of, the show is going to be canceled. We knew it was going to be canceled come April. So we started the new season in fall, in October, whatever it was. And it was only going to be a half season from October till December. And then that's it. Close out with New Year's Eve, and then you're done. So in the one part of your brain, you're going, I got to get more work after this. How am I going to get more work? But the other part of your brain is like, currently I'm fully employed. I'm doing this TV show. It takes so much time out of my day, and I don't have time to go looking for other things. So you just have to ride that thing out until it ends. And then it ended, and then I gave myself a few months to, not to worry about it. And then it's been a hard climb after that. There's always something else going on. And then illness raised its head.
Well,
and that was a big diversion.
This is one of the things that I did not know about you. And I said, went kind of public a couple of years ago after I'd had the operation. Now, I know a lot of times they use the word, fighting cancer. I mean, what was the fight like? And I'm very, honest and straightforward about my situation where, number one, I never went to the doctor because I was like every other guy, just never felt like I got sick. I never felt like I got hurt. And I really didn't recognize anything as truly something that would be
debilitating.
Yeah,
right?
and life-threatening.
You just figure I'm getting older, whatever.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And so I get diagnosed. I had probably 24 hours of your mortality kind of thoughts, but only about 24 hours from me.
Really?
Because by the time I get a call from my doctor, Dr. Bernie Gossovitz, doctor of the stars, and he calls me, and I said, well, the guy told me I have very, very bad news for you. Oh, wow. And it was just, that's the way it was delivered to me. And then my doctor goes, what an asshole. He goes, oh, I saw the things. Look, we know where it is in the rectum. It's almost kind of at the end, which means they got it sort of just in time
before it spread
out. It didn't go into the lymph nodes and all that kind of stuff. Right. So I go to my surgeon, and I'm joking around because I'm trying to ease this moment. As you know, when they come sliding in on that little chair, and he's going to deliver this message. Not a movie. You see it in the movies all the time. This is your life.
My movie was different than that also.
Exactly. So I get the news. They said, see this piece of paper at the top part that says palliative and curative. Do you see where your name is? I go, yeah, it's on curative. Okay. And he said, you don't want to be on the other side.
Right.
You don't want to be in the... And he said, you see the number I put over your name? And it said 100%. He said, do you have any questions? I went, no.
You're 100% curative?
Yes.
That's what he said?
Yes.
Wow, that's not what I heard.
In fact, next week, I go for my 2-year sort of anniversary, and they go, if you're clean for those 2 years, the 2 years for me is when I'm susceptible, and it's been clean. So I'll get, hopefully, the clean bill of health like
2 years.
next Tuesday.
I thought it was 5 years. Yeah. They keep sliding it around.
They move around. For me, it's like he was most and still is most concerned about this first 2 years.
And this surgery I read about yours was some kind of radical new cool thing?
It was laparoscopic, Alan. So therefore, instead of gutting me out the front, which they do, and then I still have the ostomy bag.
Okay.
But at some point, they're hoping that they can reverse it, and the bag will come off.
Right.
And he did it with laparoscopics, which means they go in and it's how they like gallbladders is a big thing with laparoscopics. Right. It's been around since the 80s, but no one really does it for the colon and rectal cancer simply because it's hard.
Right.
Like you've got to study this thing. My guy went to Barcelona for like a couple of months to learn it every day so he could bring the technique back and then teach it to other surgeons.
So that's going on now? They're learning here how to do that now?
Well, that's what his thing is. He has basically clinics for other surgeons in this country.
Right.
Which there's only like about 20% of them that do it. So otherwise you are getting gutted like a fish. That big mark comes in there, and that's my story.
So were you did they give you a stage number, or how does it work? Two stage, 3 stage?
I thought it was 2 because they always talk so confidently about my situation.
Right.
And then like everybody else, once you get a little peek at if you can see something,
you look over the top.
And I went, holy fuck, that says 3.
Right.
That's a little.
Maybe they didn't want to tell you
well,
that, right?
but it's like because it didn't have that effect on the lymph nodes and so on. But I never, after that period of time, and this is where I'm lucky.
Yeah.
You know, you still go through the surgery, you still go through the radiation and the chemotherapy and some of the extreme pain that you do. But that was my story, and it's a relatively happy story and an easy story to tell because there wasn't anything I thought was overly, at least from my opinion, dramatic or traumatic in that I never worried about mortality.
Right.
But I don't think that was yours. This is not your story.
My story is very different, but I do like talking with people that have had cancer stories because I find that we're in a club.
Yeah.
We're in a. It's not a club you want to join or you're looking forward to paying your dues towards. But when you hear things like what you're saying, like people don't even understand. I don't even understand. My current position, I get it. But my old position was, I can't believe I'm saying this now, which is, like what you're telling me and what I read about you, it's very conventional. You know, you got it all done conventionally, whereas I broke all the rules.
Yes.
Anybody that knows my whole life probably is not all surprised to hear that.
Well, what else would Alan do? Yes.
It manifested itself in illness. So I don't know how much time I have, but
You got as much time you want.
To sort of buttonhole it.
Yes.
But basically, I was angry about a lot of things in my life in general. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that's the reason I got the cancer. I don't know. Some people say that. I don't know. But it was a factor in the cancer.
I believe that it is.
Here I was deliberately not partaking of a lot of alcohol with my peers. You mentioned Dave Hempstead and other people and comics, and we hang around after shows and we have drinks and it's fun and it's great. And I started to feel marginalized out of that group because I didn't do that anymore. I didn't want to do that anymore. I didn't like how it made me feel. And a lot of people gave me a hard time in a loving way for being a health freak. You know, like I became vegetarian and then I became vegan and I was exercising and doing all these things. And then you get cancer. Well, I got pissed off, right?
Like, because you did all the right things.
Doing all these things. Like,
yes.
I quit smoking years ago. And I've been on a health kick, or at least a health conscious kind of person. Like, what? How much protein am I getting? How many carbohydrates? And I'm going to go for a run. I'll have pasta. You know, I was really watching all of these things. Then you see people walking around, smoking, drinking, stumbling around, and they seem to be fine.
And nothing.
Right? So I was kind of angry in the first place. But 2013 slides by. I'm in really good shape. I'd been going to the gym. Again, Dave Hempstead, you mentioned him. He's a friend of mine, and he got me into this gym that he goes to when I couldn't get up there all the time. So I started to go to these other gyms. I was going 5 times a week, got into a really good physical state, and then I was in the gym doing a warm-up exercise with a dumbbell over my head at the back, and I popped a rib, or so I thought. God, that hurt. You know, you pop a rib, and I thought, I didn't warm up enough. I'm an idiot. So you have to take 6 weeks to heal. It didn't quite heal. Then I noticed I could move certain ways, but not other ways. And it kind of just changed, and it didn't really heal up. And you know this with ribs anyway. It's like broken toe, nothing you can do. And so I let it go for a while, and then by the time April hit, like this was at the end of January, by the time April hit, and I'm still not great, and I'm in a lot of pain, and it just, I felt like it'd been beaten up. Like I'd been in an alleyway just getting, like I was a bag in a gym, had been punched a bunch of times. It was getting worse and worse. So would you say that you're in pain physically at this point? Yeah, I was in pain. I mean, if I was sitting there still, I wouldn't be in pain. But if I went to grab, God.
Right.
You know, and it was moving around. It was floating around my rib cage is the best way I could say it. And the place that I originally hurt was kind of sore, but not as bad. And it was like other spots, you know. And so I went to the doctor in June, my GP, who's also a doctor of the stars, so I won't mention him.
You should mention him. I mentioned my guy.
I know, but I've got a bunch of. You've mentioned your guy because you love him and he did this work and he's great. I've got a bunch of guys at a shooting gallery that I'm right now loading my BBs into the rifle. See, and so this guy, I went for some tests and you take blood and urine, etc., and it was all negative. You're fine, and it's a very sad thing to hear that you're good when you know you're not.
That is scary.
Then you're on the place of, am I a hypochondriac? Do I think I'm having these things? Because he says I'm okay, but you know, it's this weird trip. It's a weird trip, and I'll use drug terminology because we're going there. Mm-hmm. And so as we move along, and then like 2-3 weeks later, it's worse and worse. I'm doing over-the-counter meds, you know, like Robaxis, anything, any of that stuff, you know, over-the-counter, what's it, Aleve, all those things.
Oh, yeah, I've had that.
Just to chase away what was really hurting. And I'm not even that kind of guy that takes those kind of drugs. So then it gets worse. So I go back to him. He runs the same test again. Now we're getting into July of 13, and you're still good. He goes, well, what seems to be the problem? I go, that's why I'm here to find out. And it kept deteriorating, Mike. And it got to the point where then he sent me out to a urologist, a specialist, to let's take a look at things. And by this time, I was having a great difficulty passing urine.
Yeah.
And so they're running tests. But now I'm in the care of a urologist affiliated with Mount Sinai. So I figure I'm all good here. And at the end of the testing, and then I go back, and they say this, they say, well, your testosterone's a little low. You know, you're 50, and it's not the end of the world. And you know, you can do a couple of things about that. But basically, I was fine.
Yeah, so that probably freaked you out.
And that freaked me out because I wasn't fine. And then I just kept chasing these over-the-counter meds and try to get heavier ones, and then mixing, having a couple of shots of
you're trying to,
scotch with whatever.
The one thing that I'd say, Alan, that my little journey, as brief as it was, taught me is that I now understand those that deal with chronic pain. I was never someone that had pain beforehand, so when I'd watch Dr. Drew, I'd go, what a bunch of fucking losers. Look at
whiners.
And these guys, like was it Jeff Conway, who played Bobby on Taxi, and I didn't even recognize who that was. I'm going, who's the old crank? And my son goes, didn't you watch Taxi?
Taxi.
Yeah, I'm going, holy shit, it's oh my god, it's Jeff Conway.
The good-looking guy on the show. Remember?
The stud guy. He was the actor boy.
The worst in the end.
And I look at him thinking, after what I've been through, when the pain won't stop, and you need something, and it said to me, aspirin would be the biggest drug thing I would take. I was not a pills guy. I wasn't a drug guy at all.
Same thing.
But during my little journey, if I couldn't get my hands on that hydromorphone, which is the form of morphine, and I was like, and it allowed me to function until I didn't need it, and then I just.
And you stopped doing
dropped it. And I weaned myself off. It's not a problem.
Morphone's cleaner too. I found that out with morphine and all these things. But that's the truth of it. What you're saying, there's all these different drugs they come into play. But at this point, I was like, I'll take anything.
Anything.
And you keep changing.
And over the counter almost does nothing.
Almost does nothing.
Yeah.
But I hated it, and it's carrying a bunch of garbage with it, right? I mean, you're taking in shit that you don't want.
Exactly.
And I don't know if you're swearing here. Sorry. And
it's called raw Mike Richards. You can do it.
It's raw.
Yeah.
Fucking shit.
Yeah.
Anyway, so here's the thing. So I finally, it's just getting worse and worse, and I don't know what to do. Like, I'm really upset. I've been to see the experts. I've been to find out what's up. And then I wake up. This is crystal clear to me. This is a bad winter. This was the winter of 13 and 14. If you're Toronto bound, you remember these days. It was already tons of snow. It was freezing cold. I woke up in that morning, and it felt like two rebar going through my lungs, like I was being skewed, just piercing through. And I had to fight to get out of bed by pushing up, but every time I pushed on something, it would hurt. It was so bad, and I was like, I have to go to the hospital now. Now, the next day was day one of a table read of the Air Force New Year's Eve Christmas special. You're going to be sitting around a table with a script. I was supposed to laugh at these things. So I was like, I don't care. I have things to do today, but I have to go to the hospital. So I heard the news reports, and there were CIA cars everywhere, and people's cars weren't starting, and it was mayhem on the streets. And I looked at the traffic app, and it's red lines everywhere. I didn't even want to get an ambulance. So I got from my house on the GO train, which is out east in Pickering area, and I toddled over to the GO train, and there's no body heat because you're barely moving. At this point, I had lost my mobility. I could barely walk, so you can't even, how it's cold. Your zipper's done up, you open it up, steam comes out. Wasn't getting that. Finally get on the train, go down to Union Station. From there, the transit up to Mount Sinai, check in, and then I'm just sitting waiting for 4 hours.
You're 4 hours there, but you probably were almost an hour and a half from Pickering, yeah. So you've been at this for 5 or 6 hours.
Oh, yeah, of being awake on this day. And this was the premier day. I mean, it had been getting gradually worse and worse every day. So now I'm sitting there, and people are leaving. They're sitting in front of me. They're getting up and leaving, and I get it, because I'm sitting there and go, oh! Like, it was so
they're
terrible.
Freaked out by what you're doing.
Freaked out by what I'm doing. So I went in, and within 4 hours, and this is the amazing thing, this is what I have a problem with. I've been to these doctors, I've been to my GP, I've been to this specialist, I've been to the urologist, days and days and days of this, working on this, and then I go into Emerge, and 4 hours later, I come out with a full diagnosis of exactly what's wrong by an Emerge doctor. Like, how did he do that compared to... So they ran an MRI, they did an X-ray, they did everything, and when this guy came back, this is why my movie is a little different.
Yes.
My movie's different because this guy's name, I can't even say, I know it's Rob, but I'm not going to say his name because I don't mean to disparage, but I am a comedian, I am a mimic, and I don't care about political correctness. This guy had such an over-the-top effete voice.
Right.
It was hilarious.
Okay. As you're writhing in pain.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, I have some really difficult news. He says, can we just go in the different room here? And I go, buddy, if you're saying that to me in the hallway, there's a bunch of other people. I'm on a gurney wired up to a bag of morphine at this point. For the first time, I'm not feeling any pain for months and months. And I said, if you're going to tell me anything in that room, everybody knows what you're going to say. Like, I'm right on the edge. Just go ahead and say
Drop it.
He goes, I still want to just speak with you in the room. So we go in the room, and he goes, it's either prostatitis, and it's inflamed, and you've got problem. We'll have to deal with that. Or it's stage 4 cancer of the prostate. It's already metastasized. And I'm like, what? Either or.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, all I can think, though, in my mind is like, this is not how the movie goes. This isn't how. In the movie, it's a guy going, well, I've got some terrible news for you. And this guy is so funny with his voice and everything. And he tells me, and then he leans in, and I said, well, how am I supposed to find out, which one it is? And he was making the point that he wasn't really able to tell me.
Because he's just the emerge doctor.
Right. He's not able to tell me what it is. He can tell me this small plethora of what it might be and what it could be, and that an expert will be getting in touch with me shortly.
What's shortly mean?
Well, it turned out to be 5 weeks.
Oh, my God, Alan. Oh, my God. 5 weeks you got to wait now. After you had the door number 1, which is not great, and door number 2.
On the hydromorphone to keep it at bay.
Oh, my God.
But then this guy leans in, and he's, as a favor, he leans in and he goes, but it's the cancer.
Oh,
to let me know. And
oh, my God.
Okay, thanks a lot. All right. Now, here's the weird part. Okay, so I'm in that thing waiting in pain. And while I'm sitting there, it's 2013. This is a million years ago now. I'm sitting there going, well, I don't really smoke cannabis anymore. I don't smoke joints anymore. I stopped doing that years ago because I found it to be very creatively inducing for me. And then that would be great. And then I wouldn't do anything about it. I was irresponsible with it. But I thought, people are doing things.
Here, make sure you lean in here.
People are doing things with medical cannabis. They are doing things. So I said to myself, I'm going to get involved with this regardless of what this guy tells me. Well, whatever this doctor tells me later. So as soon as I left with the diagnosis and the morphine prescription, this is on a Thursday, November 20th. The next day, I have to go and read this Airfar script. I mean, I can barely walk, right? I can barely see what's going on. I'm in such pain. Are we on pause? Has there been a shutdown? Is the AMA here? So I have to go in and read the script, with everybody at the table. First script for the... And I wasn't having the best time in there. And I had to get there first so people couldn't see how I walked. And then leave last so people couldn't see how I walked.
So you're
very cagey.
Yeah, so you're very conscious right now at this point in your life of not letting anyone know what the hell's going on.
At that point?
Yes.
Yeah, no, you've just been diagnosed with terminal cancer that's already, already metastasized into your bones, etc. Like, this is the diagnosis. This is what he said to me. He said, aggressive advanced prostate cancer, stage 4, that's already metastasized into much of your bones. I'm so sorry.
But Alan,
that's what he said.
If someone tells me this story, if someone tells me, and you're sitting here telling your story, so it's the opposite. But you're dead.
I'm dead.
You're dead.
So I really have a much better time now because I really don't care about a lot of things that.
Really?
Yeah.
So you go the don't give a shit. Here we go.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because what happened was at the end of this diagnosis and then doing this secretly, like you don't walk in and go, oh, hey, so, yesterday I was diagnosed with. Now, funnily enough, the doctor on the show, when, I don't know if you guys are showbiz savvy, listen to this broadcast here downtown Toronto. But if you're doing a movie or a television show, there's always a doctor on staff who initially processes, the key players, the director, the actors, everybody, to make sure they're not going to have a health issue, which is going to stall production, which is going to cause insurance problems, right? So everybody gets like a checkup from the doctor. And this doctor was my doctor.
I had no idea.
Oh, yeah. They have to check,
that.
especially on a series. Like if we're shooting stuff, we have to make sure you're okay. If you all of a sudden come down with some kind of thing that we could have, there's a big production problem, right?
Right. So it's a little insurance involved, I'm sure, all that shit. Okay.
So the doctor on the staff of the show, who has been the same doctor and a doctor to the stars and a doctor all over the place, and was the guy that he came in every year at the beginning of the season, whether it was a full season or the one-off, And he assesses you. You know, you sit there, give your blood pressure, the whole thing. So the whole cast goes in. You know, you're getting your costumes. You're getting your costumes measured. You're reading the script. Pre-production TV stuff. And it's like, okay, 10:30, you have to go and see the doctor. So I go and see the doctor, and he's just going to be sitting there, taking my blood and everything. Now I've been visiting this guy all summer. Been visiting. He's the guy that I've been going in to see with these pains, this weird phantom story.
Yes.
So he's very calm and quiet. He's saying, "Oh, how's it going? How are you?" And I go, "Well, I'd be fit." And so I don't tell anyone, but he's the friggin' doctor, and he's my doctor.
Yeah, but okay.
So I say to him, "Well, I'd be doing a lot better if I weren't diagnosed with stage 4 cancer yesterday." And he freezes. What? What's that? And I go, "Yeah. Remember the whole thing coming to your office all summer long, blah, blah, blah? Well, guess what it is." And so now I don't like him. Now I don't like,
Don't like him.
Don't like him.
You see that face. It's got to be everything in your power to go, because of you, I'm not going to live.
Yeah, or why couldn't you catch this earlier? So what happened was I slid so far down, and I can remember the pain of this thing. So anyway, here's what happened. Here's the good news. I want to get to the good news because I don't know how much time I have, and I hate leaving people on the... It's hard to do this in stand-up because as soon as you say, "Oh, stage 4 cancer," they go...
Yeah, not the punchline. Not the punchline they were looking for.
Yeah. Is this guy going to die right now?
Yeah.
Literally, not in a comedy sense, but in a figure, in a real...
Well, sure.
So I'm... Because I've done both. Not at the same time, though. So here's the thing. I'm sitting there going, okay, I'm going to get this cannabis. So that's Thursday the 20th. Thursday the 20th, I'm diagnosed. Wednesday the 20th, I'm diagnosed. Thursday, I go into work. Friday, I go into work. We're taking photographs, like I'm dressed up in my New Year's Eve suit, having a glass of beer. It was so surreal to carry this TV job of frivolity. And then on the weekend, the 23rd, I contacted a person who was able to provide some leafy green. And I asked her, and I asked her, was it her or him? Oh, I can't say. Anyway, it was a person. And I asked her, I said, I need to get more of this because I have to understand this whole medical marijuana thing. Can you get me started? So she gets me started on getting some stuff. And what I did was, seems like a million years ago. I went on YouTube and I learned how to create cannabis oil because I knew I was in just such a terrible place. So I start doing the cannabis oil. I'd make it myself on the weekend. On the third day of actually taking this tiny substance, this tiny, tiny amount, because you have to gear up slowly. It's very high power concentration. Rick Simpson oil, it's called. And nobody was selling it. You had to make it yourself. You had to go on YouTube, figure out how to do it. And I started to take this. On the third day, on the fourth day of still taking my morphine and going to work, going to the Air Force, I realized I'm not in pain. Isn't that amazing?
Okay.
So I didn't take it.
Okay, so hold on. So... Because there's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on.
Okay, so you're taking hydromorphone at this point?
Just taking hydromorphone, and that's it.
Which people have to understand, really powerful stuff. The pills
stuff.
are tiny, and for me, as you're saying for yourself, when it comes to pain, godsend. In fact,
what I liked about it is it doesn't mess with your head. It just pushes the pain away.
That's what I felt.
Back to normal town.
But then you're also, at this time, taking this oil.
Yeah.
And this is something that you're smoking with the oil?
No, this is something that you are. It's an oil. It's a liquid, but you're swallowing it.
Oh, so you just but it's a trace amount. Like it's very small. It's a pinhead of oil.
Pinhead of oil.
Cannabis oil.
Cannabis oil.
And then you're sitting there. You're going in for a read.
I am advocating the use of this. Yeah. So what you do is, if you know how to make tea,
yes, you
do the same thing, but you do it with cannabis instead of with tea. And instead of using water, you use alcohol or what's the other one they use? I don't use that other one. Naphtha.
But you notice at this point, the pain's going away.
Right. So I start taking this stuff, and I realize after the third day, like I'm getting up in the morning to go to Air Force. It's the Thursday morning. I've made it on Sunday. I took it on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And now it's on Thursday morning. I'm taking my pill to get on the train to go down to work, and I realize, wait a minute, hang on. I'm not actually in pain right here. I'm going to hold off. Now, I brought it with me. Let's not kid ourselves. I carried that stuff for a year in case,
Right.
But it went away, and then I started to realize I was able to regain physical actions that I hadn't been able to do before. Okay, so now we're getting closer to the time when this expert guy is going to see me at Mount Sinai to tell me the news.
We're only talking a matter of weeks. I thought you were talking about this is the matter of the 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah, the 4 or 5 weeks.
In this time, this is what's happened for you.
I'm pounding this oil. So what happens is you do this tiny bit of oil, And after a week, you double it to 2 pinheads. And after about a week or so, then you double that to 4. And so it goes, and you're acclimatizing. So now you're like a guy who can have 6 drinks at a bar and he's okay, versus the guy that never drinks, has 2 beers and he's on his ass.
Right, gotcha.
You're doing the same thing. So now I've slowly acclimatized to this. I go back in for my big meeting.
Yeah.
You know, with the big
another,
pro.
Another part of the meeting,
specialist.
or the movie, rather. This is the other
This
part.
is the other part of the
Yeah.
movie. This is the guy, not the Emerge doctor,
Yeah.
but this is Mr. Prostate King. And I go in to see him, and he does a reading on me. They do a fresh blood reading to see how you're doing. And now this is the reason when cancer comes up and raises its head, and I would have said the same thing to you before your surgery. I would have said, I'm not saying don't get your surgery. I don't say don't do anything to anybody. I'm saying try this along for the ride. Because what happened was, when I tested, have you ever had a PSA score for your prostate?
But that's not what. But years ago.
Okay.
Years ago.
So your PSA needs to be no more than, say, 4 or 5, depending on the person. Maybe 2, 3. If you don't have any, that's fantastic. Probably not going to happen. Mine was at 700 when I was diagnosed.
700.
700 when I was at the Emerge.
And 4 is dangerous.
4 is dangerous. 700's out of control. So now, but I am feeling a little bit better, and I am functioning through this November into December. So I go see this doctor, this expert, in between Christmas and New Year's, to see this guy, to get the news. Like, what's happening? You're the pro. You're the dude that's going to shepherd me through this mess. And he says, I don't understand this, but your PSA was 700 when you were diagnosed, and now it's at 374.
Oh my God.
Now, 374 is not something to aspire to, listeners at home. This is not a great fun number, I tell you this, but it's almost half of 700. And he is so convinced that there's something wrong. There must have been a failure in the first one couldn't have been as high.
That 50% accuracy
Yeah.
that would be off.
Because his claim was basically, I understand it. It was either it's going to still be 700 or higher, because I will have, 5 weeks has gone by.
Yeah.
How did it get down here? And he can't believe it, but I know that I'm feeling better in general, sort of nominal senses. I'm able to lift my legs again. I'm able to do certain things. I'm able to, and I know this cannabis stuff is working because you take it every day. And then so he says it's only 374. Even with this, he's going by the old data of the 700 and
Sure.
everything else. He's going by everything that they had to monitor based on the MRI, the CAT scan, the whole kit and caboodle that I got taken. He says you've got 10 or 12 months left.
So you're still getting a prognosis that in a year you're dead.
In a year. So I say to the guy, so how do I get back from stage 4 to 3 to 2 You don't. You don't get back from stage 4 to 3 to 2. You just, I'm so sorry. Then he drops the bomb. This is the bomb. He says, you're too far gone for chemotherapy. You're too far gone for radiation, and you're too far gone for surgery. Now, I'm not really a chemotherapy fan, and if we had another show, I'd talk all about that. But it was still interesting to hear I was not eligible for it.
You don't even qualify for the thing that
qualify for this thing. So I'm sitting here going, well, there's literally nothing to do. And he does a tap on the back, like, hey, sorry, man. Hey, nice game. That kind of thing.
Oh my God.
And I hate this guy. And my gal at the time, she goes, oh, I hate that guy. He's so full of himself. And then I heard subsequently from some nurses that he is very, very much a bit of a god,
right.
this fellow.
Right.
But he basically gave me no options, and that's why I'm here. That's why I want to talk about this, because sometimes you're given no options, and sometimes they don't give you this other option. So I'm here to say, not to tell you not to do anything. I'm not here to tell anybody this, and I'm saying that emphatically because I've been criticized of telling people not to do things and that I'm an irresponsible practitioner.
No, I want to hear options if it's me.
The options are chemotherapy, radiation, surgery, and then there's some drugs and stuff you can take and whatever, right? So those are the options. But there's another option. And when you do the research and you understand that this oil is nothing more than you have to look at things differently. It doesn't actually cure cancer. It makes your body a place where cancer doesn't seem to be able to take hold. It makes an inhospitable climate for said disease, as opposed to curing the disease.
Okay, so
And as I sit here 3 friggin' years beyond my anniversary of when I was supposed to be planted in the ground, I get a little cocky. I get a little bit snippy, snarpy,
So what do they say to you now? Are you still? Is there a PSA score that you can talk about?
Yeah. So what they say now is, so what happened was that was as I was sliding into 2014. I was taking this guy's, it was a hormone suppressant for testosterone to prevent the testosterone from being made, because that's the fuel for the prostate cancer. So as he said, and certain things are quotes, right? He says, this is going to help you ease on out.
Ew.
I said, what if I don't want to ease on
Thanks
out?
for that.
This is the most difficult part of my job. That's what he said to me.
Okay. Now that line I've heard, I think in MASH. I think MASH would say that.
I'm so sorry. You're having a tough 35 seconds while I take this into my next life. So basically, here's what happened. So I was doing better and better. As I left him standing there telling me, you've got no options, I'm now increasing the amount of oil. And by spring, by what was it, Easter, I took my kids to the water park in Niagara Falls, up and down the stairs, tube slides, the whole friggin' thing. I mean, you can't even believe this is going on.
Oh, it's a miracle.
Given my...
it's a miracle.
People say that.
Yeah.
I don't really understand the term, but it could be. But I'm doing that.
Well, because you're not supposed to...
It's not supposed to be doing... I'm supposed to be deteriorating to
Yes.
death, and now I'm getting better and stronger. And I get to the part where I realize I can't take this guy's drug anymore, because it's giving me the side effects. You know, sometimes you look at a side effect of a drug, it's like, well, you know, some of those are okay. I don't really get drowsy when I drink this thing. But I was really messed up with the side effects. I was getting very anxious, very, you know, a lot of... And then you would need another medication to calm that down, and that causes a side effect, so you need this medication. I just said, I don't want to do this anymore. He says, well, I think you're making a huge mistake. And my PSA is continuing to plummet, down to 3, 2, 1, back down to normal town, right?
You're kidding me.
Right to normal.
So you've gone from 700 to 1.
Yeah, 1.5 or so.
That's
so
fucking crazy.
I don't have anything to do with this guy. Sorry. I don't have anything to do with this guy anymore. And I just say I'm not going to take that drug. And then I continue on with my life, and everything's okay. And I just keep taking the cannabis oil. Now we're approaching the end of 14, and damn it, these weird feelings are starting to come back again. And I have a crisis of faith. In other words, I'm starting to go down a track again. I can feel it.
Yeah.
Having been there the first time, there's no wonder. There's no mystery this time. 2013 was a mystery, but now it's like, oh, God. So now I'm taking the cannabis, but I'm sliding down anyway. And I don't want to go back to see this guy because, you know, he's just going to tell me the same shit he was telling me before. And so I'm hoping for the best. But it all turns out subsequently that the cannabis that I was using didn't have a high enough levels of the CBDs, which are the essential ingredients that are... There's THC in cannabis, there's CBDs, there's terpenes, there's all kinds of things that you're boiling the essence of it down into this tar, this paste. And when I wasn't getting the right amount... Because it's illegal. Because if I buy weed from this guy or buy weed from this guy, they're two different kinds of weed. But if you buy a can of Coke from here and George Brown College and the one down at Union Station, it's all the same thing with the same list on the side, right? So when it's not regulated. So here I am taking an unregulated thing, and the cancer's coming back like a cold sore, man. Like it comes back sometimes. And this is where I get into the chemo thing. Because I think with chemo, you flatten your whole immune system to 0. Then hopefully only the good stuff grows back. But when the bad stuff... Well, it's like poorly charging a rechargeable battery. So you don't come back up as strong, and then the chemo can come back and take you out again in different waves. So that's why people get upset when I talk about it, because I don't do it. But I wasn't given the option to do it. So when I get to this point, at the end of 14, beginning of 15, well, it's starting to happen again really badly. And I got worse. At the beginning of 2015, like just over 2 years ago, from say mid-January, it was pretty bad in early Jan, but by mid-January to March, I promise you, it was over. I thought I was going to die. And I was dying. And I was just walking around my house, just going, okay, well, I gave it a good kick.
And you're not working at this point?
No. I mean, I could barely move.
So it's all...
Yeah, I mean, I was doing voiceover work here and there.
Right.
But oddly enough, while I was at my lowest point, I wasn't getting called in, which was really weird because later on I was. It was nice stuff. But I was literally deteriorating and making peace with the fact that I was going to go on out. Like that I'd had a nice little, renaissance, and I was going down for the count. So when it got so bad again, I packed 2 little bags. One to go to the hospital for a day or 2, one to go for a longer time. And a friend of mine left a car in the driveway because mine was automatic, standard, and I couldn't shift anymore. I couldn't work the clutch and everything. So she left her car. But then as I'm leaving at 3 o'clock in the morning, I woke up in this harsh pain again one day, and I said, okay, I got to go to the hospital. But I'm not going to go downtown going to go to Ajax or Oshawa or
Yep.
something, get in a different sort of game. And I go downstairs to drive. I couldn't even get my leg over the step to go down into the car. I said, oh, shit, I need an ambulance. So I get on an ambulance. The guy doesn't want to take me anywhere outside of the GTA because he's not allowed.
Right.
And I say, buddy, I got stage 4 cancer and I want to go to the Ajax hospital. He goes, okay, let's go. So he was cool. It's like a card.
Yeah.
They deal you the card.
Yeah.
You got to play the card.
Yeah.
So off we go to the hospital. They diagnose me, and it's way worse than the first time. My PSA was 1196. 1,200 if you round
Do you
up.
really think that I mean, if danger is at 4,
Yeah.
I'm really not thinking on the scale
I gotta
that it's going
smile
up to
at you
1,200. It's like the
because it's
Scoville
over.
scale of hot peppers.
Yeah,
Like
it's-
once you get to like a couple of million, how would you know what 400 million is? Because
Yeah.
that's really what you've done.
Yeah, it's
You're
like-
off the charts.
Off the charts. So I'm going to die for sure, or so I think. But they say at this hospital, they go, oh, no, we have an oncology clinic at our other hospital, which is 10 minutes from my house, amazingly. We have an oncology clinic. We don't treat oncology here, but you've been diagnosed. So next week, here's an appointment. Go to see this other guy. So never mind the guy downtown. I go see this other guy. He's a great guy. He talks to me for 2.5 hours. He's asking me questions. Because I'm a comic and I'm describing things, he likes a lot of the descriptions.
Yeah.
He goes, can I use that when I'm talking to other patients? For example, metastases and what have you, different feelings that take place when this is going on. And then he gets me into what's called an emergency pain management weekend.
Well, that sounds like fun.
Yeah, it was. He goes, because you can't heal when you're in agony.
No.
So we're going to flatten you out. So for like 75, 80 hours, I'm on everything there is. I'm watching TV. The playoffs were on. It was fun as hell. And I don't feel pain. And they're bringing stuff in.
Yeah.
And they're nice people.
That relief must have been
It was
just
great.
incredible.
Then the biopsy, which we had to do, even though we knew it was cancer, to open the door to all the other treatments. It's like a technical glitch. So we do that. That's a lot of fun. You ever lie down on the side and curl up into a fetal position while one of your buddies fires pucks into your groin? That's kind of what it's like.
yeah.
Like you're the dryer at Sidney Crosby's house. When so I'm lying there getting that done, and then I've had some procedures. At that point, I then went from there to I also had a urine bag on my leg. I had to bypass because I wasn't able to do things and different stuff. But I got back on the cannabis. I got with this guy, and he told me this shot of radiation that I took from Sunnybrook was going to be necessary. It was all terrible in my back. He says, this is only going to last about 5 or 7 months. 9 months tops. But after that, it's going to hurt again. It's going to be terrible. And we're going to have to do this again. And then the windows of time are going to keep getting narrower as you go along. And then, it's not going to work anymore. Anyway, that was 2 years ago. So I recently just asked him, I said, my doctor, I said, because I go every 3 months and get blood and test it and everything. And he wanted another.
And you get this done where?
I get this done at Rouge Valley Hospital. Rouge Valley in Scarborough at Ellesmere and Meadowvale.
Okay.
And a great oncology clinic there. Everybody there has been working together for a long time. Like everybody on the floor. This helped a lot in the hospital. People working together 8, 10, 20 years. But by the time I get this thing done, and he tells me this recently. This is my most recent thing. My PSA is 1.5. And I make jokes like, he is now hitting me up for his Rogaine bill because he's pulling his friggin' hair out trying to figure out how I'm doing this thing. He won't hear that it's the cannabis that does it. But I know that's the only wild card.
It's the only thing
It's
that's
so different.
the variant
Yeah.
in your story.
So even if it's not that, I don't know. If it's not that, I don't know what it is.
Okay, so because look, and now we're getting a little tight for time, and I don't want to end it off short. I really don't, because people don't.
Let's wrap it up.
So, people listening to your story,
Yeah.
and there might be some, Alan, that are maybe not necessarily in the category that you were, but maybe there are. So maybe there's people listening going, so Alan, what are you telling me right now?
What am I telling
you
right now
me?
is that there are several doors that you are presented with to go through, and maybe you'll be going through 2 or more of those doors when you go through conventional medicine to deal with your cancer. What I'm saying is there's another door, and that door is written about in the Bible, which you may or may not believe in. But if you have to go to court for any reason, they'll ask you to put your hand on it and tell the truth. So a lot of the legal system is based on the fact that on page 1 of the Bible of Genesis, it tells you in there that God decided, of all people, to plant these things everywhere and that we're supposed to take it as food. So it's on page 1 of it's Genesis chapter 1 verses 11, 12. Explains how the herb that reproduces after itself was put on the earth, and then God said it was good. So let's hear about this possession charge, Your Honor. You're elevating yourself higher than the Creator, are you? Okay, good for you. That's nice. What club did you have to join to get this gig?
Now, so where is this available?
So where this is available is you can't go to a store. There are different laws. There's Justin Trudeau, etc., all the different things that are happening in cannabis. I mean, you need to cut through all of that, and you have to just find yourself a good quality supply of high CBD, highest possible CBD, cannabidiol, it's called, cannabis.
Can you get this at these medicinal marijuana stores?
Indica. Yes, you can. It's rather expensive there, but it's cheaper than dying. And so what you need is a pound. You need a pound ultimately to do the entire course. So let me just tell you that taking a pound of this stuff over the course of time, you've boiled the pound of pot down to 60 grams, a liquid tub about the size of the head of this
Bret Hart.
fella.
You're looking at Bret Hart, Bret the Hitman Hart head.
Right. So about the size of Brad the Hitman Hart's head
Okay.
on this model.
Yes.
A little bit bigger than that is a pot, like a little thing of Vaseline, basically.
So it's got a viscosity to it. It's oily
it's
or,
like
or
tar.
It's tar.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's like tar. It's like molasses in January. you
Okay.
know? And so you have this little tiny, and you do that, and you double it. And there's a course you can download the thing. It's a dosage chart, Rick Simpson oil dosage chart. You can download that. It's a little graph, and you take this, and as you build up your tolerance, it just normalizes your body to the point where these illnesses can't seem to take hold. That's it.
Look,
it's a well-guarded secret. The feds have finally caved on. Well, sometimes smoking can relieve anxiousness and tensions. It's deeper than that. It's bigger than that. You're cleaning your blood with it.
It is. It's not just fascinating. To say it's fascinating, that's too shallow. I think a reaction to it. I think that what you're doing, and I think what you're doing here today, is telling someone who may have no hope.
There's another option. Check it out.
Maybe.
Right.
So why would you not take that chance?
Well, one reason is because it's illegal. One reason because my doctor doesn't. My doctor doesn't think this is yeah. My doctor didn't either.
Yeah.
Listen, this is why at the beginning I said it was kind of a gift to get this. Because the only reason I came to this awareness was because I was literally given no other option. The end. There's nothing else to do. So once I was like, well, I'll try cannabis because I thought of it anyway before I got diagnosed. Now they're saying there's nothing you can do. I've been doing it for a month. My 700 went to a 375. I feel better, and it got better and better. I had the crisis of faith later when it wasn't working, but that's just a crummy batch, as they say. So I move on to the next one, and now I maintain it regularly. So let me just close out by saying this.
Yes.
Last summer, July, August, I start to feel these weird pains again, coming back like you would do with a cold sore. Oh, God, I'm getting this thing again. I think it's an autoimmune disease that recurs. You don't quite kill it. But when you muss around with these other remedies, it sort of allows it to take root. I don't think a lot of people die from cancer. I think a lot of people die from the treatments thereof.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I mean,
and it's hard to prove otherwise.
Yes, no.
Chemotherapy does not have a very happy success rate. But when I started to feel these things last year, I go, okay, I'm going to take this. I've never even completed a course, like a guy that doesn't finish his meds properly. So last year when it came on again, I said, I'm going to do the whole course. I'm going to do it all the way through, beginning to end, for 100%, 90 days. I started on September 11th, so I'd remember. I started on September 11th. And then a few days in, I said, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to do 2 courses in a row. So on the second course, you don't need to uptick. So that's only going to take 60 days to do. I decided to do a third. So I did all of those in a row. Boom, boom, boom. And I have felt fantastic ever since. So, I mean, it's a thing that's out there. It needs to be looked at. The guy that invented this,
if it was a fluke,
THC is still working in Israel.
If it was a fluke,
yeah,
then it works kind of once for whatever weird chemical or sociological or what.
Take it.
It works once.
Yeah.
But you have now gone through these cycles of it trying and attempting to come back.
Yeah.
And it working.
Kick it out.
So you can't tell me, even in a scientific realm, that if that happens, that variant, that deviation from the normal, doesn't have bona fide effect because you're talking to me in the studio
Well,
today.
lots of people can tell you that. Lots of people can tell you that, and people will tell you that.
Well, I think
it's
that's
a bit of a battle.
Well, how do you argue that you're not sitting across the table from me with a 1.5?
I've heard things like, well, you should listen to your doctor.
Okay, well,
and I go, well, I have,
yeah,
and I did, and he gave me no options. So that's the part. Look, you can't learn how to crack a safe unless you're sitting in front of one. Right? And that might sound like a hard gig to crack a safe. You got to spin things and tumblers are spinning. You're feeling with you. I don't want to do this. But if I'm stuck in a room and there's only a safe and they go, there's nothing else for you, you're going to sit there and fiddle with it.
You're going to try it.
So the same thing with cancer. I got to the end of the life, the end of the time here, the end of the whole friggin' thing. You're done, you're done, you're done. This guy's an expert. He says you're finished, blah, blah, blah. I go, well, I'm going to try this thing. As soon as I start to feel better, I learn more. Google, right? Learning a ton of things. The guy that coined the term THC is a Jewish doctor. He lives in Israel. He's still alive. He came up with the actual awareness and identifying the compound THC in 1964 or something. He still works with this stuff. Dr. Menachem, I should have his name. But he is still working on this stuff, and he'll tell you, oh, God, there's all kinds of medical applications for this.
I think, and only those that have to look into family members' eyes, and you look at yourself in those dark places at night when mortality and you not being here anymore. I think when people hear this story, at least, and me sitting there, and again, our stories are so different.
Everyone's is different,
and then people say,
that's the thing.
When someone says to me now, well, I heard your story, I have cancer, my brother has cancer, my wife, who happens to be, and said, tell me about that cancer, because there's no, it's not you have cancer, too bad, or
right. No, I want to hear about it.
It's just minuscule variances with where it is, how it is, all those different things when it is that changes stories. And yours, because I know we got to run here. We do have to run here.
We do. I want to throw a quick plug in there, though.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I do have a net-based show. It used to be on Sirius, whatever it's called, conspiracyqueries.com, and I've kind of taken a lot of the directional thinking of being a conspiracy theorist. Like, I didn't believe Kennedy was killed by one guy, etc. So I built a whole show out of it, but that ties into why is this stuff unavailable.
So I can tweet this out too on my Twitter account.
Conspiracyqueries.com.
Okay.
And also, the other thing I want to mention is that it's very important for people to understand that these are options that are available. And if a doctor says, I order you not to take that, he's not really able to order you not to take that. And people don't want to try. And I know a lot of other people that I've helped with this. This is why I'm saying this, is if you want to reach out and get me, I'm on Facebook. I don't have any filters. Anybody can say anything. I don't block. I've only blocked 2 people in my life. And you can.
Was it Russell? Did you block Russell? Because Russell sometimes he.
I'm not even going to give him the chance. I don't even want to know his name.
Yeah, okay.
Sitting there with a yellow shirt like it's some kind of Predators whack-off fest.
That's what I'm saying.
So, but I just want people to understand that I have taken tons of time out of my life, out of my day, out of my year. I will just stop everything and go, I'll talk to you about this. I will help you with this. And I'm not any kind of practitioner or a doctor, but when people study it and they want to say, well, can you help me get this can you tell me how to, if they're open to that, I will talk to them about it. But a lot of people, first they do a ton of chemo, then they do a ton of radiation, then they do a ton of whatever, and then they're almost kind of dying, right? And then they'll go, okay, let's try the cannabis thing. And then after a while, they slip out and they go, oh, fuck, cannabis doesn't work. It's like, try this first. This is the point I'm trying to make fully. Try this first. And I did do this, luckily, right? This is the divine thing. I did it luckily because as soon as I was diagnosed, right away I'm on to getting the cannabis. 5 weeks later, I get a proper, fuller diagnosis, and there's a difference.
Well, there's a stunning difference.
So if they say to you, "Oh my God, you just got cancer today. This is terrible. Thanks for coming in. Blah blah blah. You get stage 3 this. You get stage 2 that. You get stage 4 something else." There's always the follow-up plan of, "We'll get in touch with you soon. Expect a call from us, and we're going to start chemo." Like if you got this news today, they might say to you, okay, we're going to start next Tuesday, or we're going to start Friday next week, or whatever. And you go, oh, God. In that time, get this stuff going. Check it out, because by the time you're diagnosed today with these numbers, and then a week goes by, or 2 weeks sometimes, it's even longer, and you've tried this stuff, they need to test you again before you start these rounds of medication. You're going to see plummeting numbers. You're going to feel differences. And I'm saying do it before they do anything. It doesn't need to get in the way. I'm not saying don't do the surgery, don't do the chemo. I'm saying you've got a window of time from diagnosis until whatever the hell they want to do begins. And if you start to feel great in a week or 10 days, say to the guy, just say. And people won't do this. They'll say, oh, the doctor said, go, look, I'm going to need another 2 weeks. I'm going to need another 2 weeks before we start with, well, I think you're making a huge mistake. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. But I'm just going to, and you feel it, and then take the chemo anywhere, do whatever you want to do. I'm not recommending anything other than try it first.
Yeah, if you've got questions, you just heard, and we'll tweet this out later on today on how to get a hold of Alan, because once again, it is another option.
It's an option. It's an option.
And
who doesn't want an option?
In this life, yeah, exactly. Thanks so much for coming in and sharing your story.
Oh, you're welcome.
It's one of a kind.
You're welcome, and so is yours, and I'm so glad you're back. I was on the air with someone else recently who's also going through cancer, and there's a lot of people out there.
He said it's a grateful club.
Sandra Carusi.
Okay.
Yeah, she has cancer. She's getting treatment for it, but she's on the air with a radio show, and she talks about it. We got to stop hiding it. Like I was in the closet.
Well,
with
that's
this.
the thing, right?
I don't want to tell anybody. Well, maybe I don't want to hire that guy to do a thing.
Okay, I'm playing.
I'm going to die soon.
I'm playing the exit song. You ready? Here we go.
Thanks, man. What? Nice to meet you.
Let's become best friends. Yup. You want to go do karate in the garage? Yup. It's time.
It is time. What a great time we had with Alan Park. Maybe even a great time. I think a very interesting time. We're gonna, and we want to keep in touch too. I want to make sure we keep in touch. Because this stuff is, again, it's an ongoing conversation. It is communication with those who are having a struggle in quite frankly staying alive. So we're gonna make sure that we do that.